President-elect Donald Trump just scored a huge win over the little guy, George Stephanopoulos, and a big guy, all of ABC News. Rather than risk going to court for that Nancy Mace interview earlier this year on ABC This Week, hosted by Stephanopoulos, and in that interview, Stephanopoulos claimed 10 times, completely contrary to the facts of the case, that Trump had been found liable for rape. So there's a $16 million settlement that ABC News has to pay out. $1 million goes to Trump's attorney, and $15 million. This is the sweet part. $15 million goes to the charitable foundation that will someday build the Trump Presidential Library. I can't stop smiling. Bill, the Trump Library, brought to you in part by George Stephanopoulos and ABC News.
Oh, it's too good.
Doesn't that have a nice ring to it?
It's got a great ring to it. And, obviously there's that all is Schadenfreude and all of that glory, but much more to the point. This is a brushback pitch, to the news media, an indication that they cannot just go ahead and continue to make up these lies and then, in the worst case scenario, print a retraction on page 17 beneath the fold kind of thing. That's the classic. Yellow journalism tactic is you make these allegations and then, if there's any pushback, you issue some kind of a non-apology apology. This story is bigger than the original story that ABC ran, and the unfortunate thing is that when you listen to Trump supporters, and you've been hearing a lot from, when you listen to Trump haters, and we've had a chance to listen to a lot of them since the election, whining and complaining about everything, they will repeatedly refer to him as a rapist. It's just part of the nomenclature. This is just one of the many well-known facts about Donald Trump is that he's a rapist, and that's a pretty filthy term to apply to somebody, and you make an accusation like that, you better be able to back it up. I think that $16 million is getting off pretty lightly, to be honest with you. He had to issue an apology as well.
That's right.
A written
Although
apology.
ABC News, I noticed this morning, they ran a piece on their website that was actually, I think, written by the Associated Press. But while the story stated all the facts of the settlement, it ended with a zinger on Trump. Well, the judge said it was practically rape. They apologized.
Well, you know what? It's practically journalism,
too.
right? I mean, what they're doing is practically news. And Trump is also making noises about was it I honestly don't remember now. Was it ABC or CBS who edited the
that was CBS,
Kamala,
60 Minutes
response? He's talking about suing them for election interference, and has even made noises about going after the woman who published that Iowa.
Oh yeah, that stupid Iowa poll. I don't think he's got really. I don't think he's got.
No, he's got no
cause
no,
on those.
He doesn't have grounds to do it, and everybody knows that he doesn't have grounds to do it. But just the fact that he mentioned it is the liberals, of course, are screaming that it's press intimidation, and as a conservative, I'm screaming it's press intimidation, because you need to be intimidated, you miserable lying swine. If you cannot go around bandying words like rapist and clearly disproven, not only disproven things, Steve. Scott knows, we've had this conversation with Scott hundreds of times on this show because Scott got his degree in journalism. If you are going to claim that Donald Trump is a Russian agent, you better have some damn solid evidence, multiply sourced and absolutely bulletproof. And one of the things about the complexity of the Watergate story, to the degree that it was, whatever degree you want to count it as a heroic story or a triumph for transparency, was the amount of effort they had to go through to verify these allegations. And so the press needs a couple of quick pitches, across the nose, or a couple shots across the bow, if you want to mix metaphors. So I'm real glad that ABC's out $16 million. I think they should be out $160 million for that particular adjective. And I would like to see George Stephanopoulos read that apology on the air.
Well, he won't be reading it on X, formerly Twitter, because I don't know if it was part of the settlement or not. It might have been part of his agreement with his employer, ABC News, but his entire X account has been deleted. It's removed. It's gone, which makes me wonder if there might have been more actionable content in that feed that various lawyers might have been going through. In any case, it's been deleted, so that'll never be found. I do have to tell you, though, the settlement was reached shortly before scheduled depositions for both Trump and Stephanopoulos, effectively avoiding any further legal proceedings. And Megyn Kelly said on her show, I think just in the last day or two, we're taping this on Tuesday, she said, our producer spoke with Trump's attorney, and here's what he said. The attorney said, our question was, why did ABC decide to settle? Was there something in discovery that scared ABC into settling? It wasn't something ABC learned that caused them to settle, but rather something Trump's team may learn, is how Megyn Kelly herself summed that up. Scott, we know about the Sullivan standard, the absence of malice and all that stuff. Never even got to that point. Is it fair to think, as I do, that ABC would rather pay up $15 million than allow Trump and the public to see how the sausage is made at ABC News?
Yeah, I got to think that that's part of it. I think there are several issues in general that journalism has never really, I was going to say that they've grappled with, but they haven't. They haven't dealt with this idea of having a news organization that you say is conveying what NPR now refers to as fact-based journalism, which every time they say that, I laugh out loud. Not because they're so bad at it, but just the phrase fact-based
journalism. It's like saying a reading-based book. I mean,
that's right. So anyway, you on the one hand, you want ABC News, the news division, to be perceived as this credible source of news. On the other hand, you want George Stephanopoulos to be able to spout off about anything he wants to and to browbeat a interview subject repeatedly with information that does not even adhere to the primitive fact-based standards of modern journalism. And so you want him to have a free rein to basically say anything he wants, but then you also want people to watch because of the credibility of ABC News. And so, I don't think that the media has ever fully dealt with that. Way back in the day, not that it was ever good, but at the end of the newscast on the national news, if the newscaster was giving his opinion, his signature would actually appear on the screen. Like Frank Reynolds would be saying something that he believed, and it would be signed Frank Reynolds right on the screen. So at least there was some compartmentalization of these two ideas. And clearly, the so-called journalists and commentators that occupy these positions like George Stephanopoulos does have completely lost their grip on their ability to do anything like reporting. I mean, the kind of thing that Stephanopoulos now does would have infuriated him when he was the spokesperson for the President of the United States. And so, I don't think anybody can look at any of these programs as anything other than just guys like you and me spouting their opinions. And that's okay. I mean, there's a market for that, but don't be deceived. And I think I'm glad that they've had to account for their irresponsibility in this. Now, they're going to argue, as already an editorial in today's New York Times argues, that we're parsing definitions, and because the case against Trump did not involve the legal definition of rape. And in fact, E. Jean Carroll herself chose not to use the word rape, although she did say that she was penetrated by his penis in this encounter. But she said she thought of it as a fight, not as rape, because she didn't want to be a victim. So they'll bring those things out and say, well, it was de facto rape. But words matter. words mean something, and if you're going to pretend to be a journalist and then grill some poor guest on your show about something, you better say it right, and or pay the $15 million and be part of the legacy forever of the Trump administration in his presidential library.
Oh, yeah. You know, this before this revolving door between being a Democrat in government and a journalist on air really got going. I don't know if you remember this, but George Stephanopoulos, when he was hired by ABC News back in the 90s after he left the Clinton administration, ABC News said, it's okay. Don't worry. We're going to have separation here. George will never cover politics.
Yeah.
What did that last? 6
Right.
minutes? Tops? But at least back then, they at least strained a little bit at trying to have some credibility. And now we've got to the point all these years later where Jen Psaki, who is White House press secretary for Joe Biden during the first 2 years of his term, she was actually negotiating with MSNBC for her contract with them while she was still press secretary for the President of the United States. This is how far we've sank. And it's going to take a lot more than $16 million to get us out. Or, you know, maybe it won't. Maybe these dinosaur news organizations will finally go bust. God knows their audiences have been shrinking for a long time and in big ways. Their credibility is shot. Their audience are shrinking. Their revenues drying up. Hey, maybe this is finally it. Maybe they will either go the way of the dinosaurs or decide to earn their credibility back. Either way would be a bonus for the United States. All I can say is to wrap this up is I kind of wish the Trump and his attorney had rejected the offer for a settlement and pushed this. You never know how things are going to go in court, but if they'd have found the right jury, I know they had the right lawyer in this case, if they'd have found the right jury, man, even just the depositions could have blown up ABC News, and maybe $16 million was too little. Maybe Bill's right. Well, that's your right angle on that, brought to you by the members of BillWhittle.com. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.